I thought I had seen cruelty before, but this was different. I stood in the freezing night, watching as my family's legacy burned to the ground. Fire swallowed every beam, every memory, every drop of sweat my ancestors had poured into that barn. I gripped the useless hose, smoke choking my lungs, and then I saw her, Karen. She wasn't hiding. She stood by her window watching me, and even through the heat, through the raging inferno, I could feel it. She was smiling. She wanted to erase me, to break me, to force me out, but she made one fatal mistake. She left evidence. That night, I made a vow. I would end her game. I set up cameras. I laid the trap, and I waited. And when her men came back, when they thought the night would hide their faces, I was already holding my shotgun. This isn't over. Karen thought she was untouchable, but now she's standing at the edge of a cliff, and she has no idea what's coming next. Before we dive into this intense story, we have a small favor to ask. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. It's always incredible to see how far our stories reach. And if you enjoy gripping, high-stakes stories like this, hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. These small actions take just 30 seconds, but for us, they mean everything. Your support helps us continue sharing these powerful stories. Thank you. Now let's get into it. I had lived on my family farm for over 30 years. To me, it wasn't just land. It was history, legacy, blood, sweat, and sacrifice. 3 generations of my family had worked this soil, raised livestock, built barns with their own hands. But that didn't matter to Karen Thompson. Karen was the HOA president of Woodridge Estates, a newly developed suburban community that had expanded dangerously close to my property. She was in her late 40s, always dressed like she was running for office, and had a way of talking that made everything sound like a friendly suggestion, even when it was a threat. And now, she wanted my land. I first heard Karen's name when I found a letter taped to my front door. Your property is in violation of HOA guidelines. Please remove all non-approved structures within 3 months. Non-approved structures? My barns? My family's barns? I laughed. It had to be a mistake. My farm wasn't part of their HOA. So I did what any reasonable man would do. I ignored it. Big mistake. After a few weeks, my fence was cut, the one separating my land from the pristine cookie-cutter homes of Woodridge Estates. Then, the fake violations started flooding in. Unapproved fencing material, excessive lawn height, unauthorized storage facilities. It was nonsense. My land wasn't under HOA control. They had no legal right to fine me. But Karen didn't care about legal rights. She cared about winning. So I did something she didn't expect. I hired a lawyer. 2 days after my lawyer sent a cease and desist letter, Karen showed up in person. She arrived unannounced, marching across my property like she already owned it. "Mr. Wilson," she said with a smile, "we need to talk." I stood firm. "No, we don't." Karen sighed, shaking her head like I was some stubborn child who didn't understand how the world worked. "You have a beautiful property," she said, looking around, "and I know how much it must mean to you, but progress is inevitable." I clenched my jaw. "My land is not for sale." Karen smiled wider. "Oh, Mr. Wilson, everyone has a price." I turned and walked away. That was the second mistake I made. A week later, in the middle of the night, I woke up to Max's furious barking. The moment I stepped outside, I saw the flames. One of my barns was on fire, raging, roaring fire, swallowing decades of history in an instant. I ran, grabbing the hose with shaking hands, my heart pounding like a war drum. Come on, damn it!" I hissed, twisting the nozzle. A weak stream of water sprayed out, useless against the raging inferno. The flames devoured the barn like starving beasts, their orange tongues licking at the wooden beams, black smoke billowing into the night sky. The heat was unbearable, searing my skin even from a distance. Max barked furiously beside me, his body low, ears flattened against his head. He knew, he felt it. I turned toward my house, sprinting inside to grab my phone. My fingers trembled as I dialed 911. "Fire! My barn! It's on fire!" By the time the fire trucks arrived, there was nothing left to save. The barn, one of those built by my grandfather with his own hands, had collapsed in on themselves, sending a final cloud of glowing embers into the night air. I stood frozen, my fists clenched, rage burning hotter than the fire itself. I saw Karen's house in the distance, lights on, curtains shifting slightly. She was watching, not even bothering to hide it. One of the firefighters approached me, pulling down his soot-covered mask. "Sir, we found something." I turned sharply. "What?" The firefighter gestured toward the blackened ruins. "Burn patterns suggest accelerant was used. Arson." I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to stay calm. "Then that means someone did this on purpose." The firefighter nodded. "We'll file an official report. The fire marshal will investigate." I already knew what the report would say. Hours later, when the last embers had died and the firefighters had packed up, I stood alone in the wreckage of my past. I ran my fingers over a half-melted horseshoe that had once hung in the barn's entrance, a symbol of luck. Now it was nothing but twisted metal. Max whimpered beside me, nudging my leg as if to ask, "What now?" My jaw tightened. I knew exactly what. Karen had made one mistake. She thought she had won. But I wasn't leaving. I wasn't planning to sell my land. And I sure as hell wasn't going down without a fight. The next morning, I installed security cameras. Not just one or two, but an entire system, hidden where no one would notice. I reinforced my fences. I double-checked every lock. And then I waited, because Karen wasn't done yet. And this time, when she made her next move, I'd be ready. I knew Karen wasn't finished. The fire had destroyed one of my barns, but it didn't break me. I had rebuilt before. I would rebuild again. But first, I needed proof. So I did what Karen didn't expect. I installed security cameras everywhere, hidden in trees, on the roof, in fence posts, infrared night vision, motion detection. Karen had no idea she was walking into a trap, and all I had to do now was wait. Karen didn't wait long. 3 days after the fire, I woke up to find red spray paint across my farmhouse. "Sell now or else." It was sloppy, rushed, not Karen's usual style. She was getting desperate. I checked the cameras, but Karen wasn't in the footage. Someone else was. A masked man dressed in black, spray can in hand. He worked quickly, looking over his shoulder, like he knew he wasn't supposed to be there. I narrowed my eyes. Karen never did the dirty work herself. She always had people for that. But who? I copied the footage and called Sheriff Bowman. The sheriff sighed, rubbing his face. "Look, James, I know what you're thinking, and I agree. It looks like Karen's behind this. But this isn't enough to charge her. The guy's got a mask, no license plate, no solid proof it's her orders." I clenched my jaw. "So what? You're telling me I have to wait until she burns down my house too?" Bowman exhaled. "I'm telling you to be careful. She's losing control. And people like that, they make mistakes." I planned on it. The next week, I was fixing the fence when I noticed a group of HOA board members standing near my property line. Karen was with them, clipboard in hand, talking, pointing. One of the men, a city inspector. My stomach dropped. I marched over. Karen turned, all fake surprise. "Oh, Mr. Wilson, what a coincidence. We were just discussing your situation." I folded my arms. "I bet you were." Karen gestured to the inspector. "This is Mr. Holloway from the county zoning office. He's here to assess your property lines." My jaw tightened. "What for?" Karen gave me that smile, the one that meant trouble. "Well, after your unfortunate incident, we realized we needed to verify whether your barns were legally placed to begin with." My hands curled into fists. "Excuse me?" The inspector cleared his throat. "There's been concerns. Some records indicate a possible property dispute. If your barns were over the line, even by a few inches, it could affect legal ownership." I knew exactly what this was. Karen was trying to rewrite history, trying to make it look like I never owned the land at all. I locked eyes with Karen. "You can check all the records you want," I said evenly. "That land's been mine for 3 generations, and I've got the documents to prove it." Karen's smile didn't waver. "We'll see." I didn't wait. I went straight to my truck, grabbed my legal deeds, survey maps, and property tax records, and shoved them at Holloway. "See for yourself." The inspector hesitated, looked at Karen. Karen looked pissed. She hadn't expected me to be ready. After an awkward pause, the inspector flipped through the documents. He couldn't argue with the facts. This appears in order." I didn't blink. "So you're leaving?" The inspector nodded slowly. Karen didn't say a word, but her eyes were burning. She wasn't done. That night I didn't sleep. I knew Karen. If she couldn't take my land legally, she'd try something else. And sure enough, at 2:43 a.m., my motion sensors went off. I grabbed my phone, checked the live feed. Two masked figures. One had bolt cutters, the other a gas can. My blood went ice cold. They were going for my tractor shed. I moved fast. I grabbed my shotgun, dialed 911, slipped outside without turning on the lights. The men didn't see me. I crept closer. My heart pounded. My grip tightened on the gun. Then I cocked it, loud. The masked men froze. "You move," I said, "and you're leaving in a body bag." One man dropped the gas can and bolted. The second hesitated. I aimed straight at his chest. "Take off the mask." The man obeyed. My stomach dropped. I knew him. It was Karen's nephew. I let out a slow breath. Well, I guess we finally have proof. The sirens howled in the distance, and this time, Karen wasn't talking her way out of it. By morning, Karen was sitting in a police interrogation room. She wasn't smiling anymore. I watched through the glass as Sheriff Bowman leaned forward. "Your nephew gave you up, Karen. We've got texts, calls, payments. He said you paid him to burn down James Barnes." Karen didn't blink. "You have no proof I meant for them to burn. I only told them to convince him." The sheriff laughed. "That's funny, because the jury's gonna love this." He slid a stack of printed security photos across the table. Karen's face drained of color. Her car, her meetings with the masked men, her messages. It was over. Karen sat frozen. For the first time, she had nothing to say. I watched, arms crossed. This wasn't just about my land anymore. It was about justice. Karen had spent years destroying lives. Now, she was about to lose everything. And me? I was finally free. Karen believed she was untouchable. For years, she ruled over the neighborhood like a self-appointed queen, using fear, manipulation, and sheer arrogance to get her way. She had silenced homeowners, crushed opposition, and turned the HOA into her personal kingdom. She had connections in City Hall, inspectors in her pocket, and lawyers who could bury anyone under a mountain of legal threats. She didn't just bend the rules, she rewrote them. But Karen had never faced someone like me. I wasn't just another homeowner too scared to fight back. I had watched. I had learned. And while Karen thought she was winning, I was preparing. For weeks I had been gathering evidence, documenting every threat, every illegal move, every violation. And now I was ready to strike. But before I could make my move, Karen made hers. And this time, she wasn't just playing dirty. She was going for the kill. It started with a letter. Unlike the others, this one wasn't from the HOA. It was from a law firm. Cease and desist. The letter accused me of defaming Karen and spreading false accusations that could damage her reputation. The wording was polite. The message was not. "Shut up or we will destroy you." I wasn't surprised. I had expected this. But what happened next? That caught me off guard. That night, around 2:13 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps. Soft, careful, too careful. Max, my loyal dog, was already growling. I grabbed my shotgun, staying low as I moved toward the window, and then I saw them. 3 men, dressed in dark clothing, moving across my property like ghosts in the night. They weren't teenagers looking for trouble. They were professionals. They split up, one near the house, 2 heading toward my new barn. Then I saw the gas cans. My stomach dropped. This wasn't vandalism. This was arson. Again, I didn't hesitate. With a flick of a switch, my floodlights exploded to life, turning the night into day. The intruders froze. Max launched into a full sprint, barking like a demon. One man bolted immediately, jumping over the fence like his life depended on it. The other 2, not so lucky. I stormed out, shotgun aimed. "On the ground, now!" One man dropped the gas can and ran. The last one, he hesitated. I took a step closer, eyes locked on the man's trembling hands, and then tires screeched in the distance. A black SUV waiting at the road. The man took off running, making a beeline for the getaway car. I fired a warning shot into the air. The SUV's doors flung open. The men dived inside, and before I could even take another step, they were gone. But not before my cameras had captured everything. I checked the footage immediately. Clear, crystal clear. And just when I thought it couldn't get any better, I zoomed in on the SUV's license plate. I let out a slow, satisfied breath. I had them. The next morning, I made my move. I walked straight into the sheriff's office, handed over the footage, and filed an official report. This wasn't just harassment anymore. This was a criminal case. Sheriff Bowman didn't waste time. He ran the plates. The SUV was registered to an LLC owned by none other than Karen Thompson. I wasn't surprised. Karen thought she was untouchable. She thought she could get away with anything. But she had just made a fatal mistake. She left evidence. And now, it was over for her. Karen must have sensed it. She must have felt the power shifting, the walls closing in on her. Because that afternoon, she showed up at my property one last time. She was alone. No clipboard, no fake smile, no legal threats, just desperation in her eyes. I saw her coming before she reached the fence. I didn't move, didn't call Max inside, didn't react at all. I simply stood on my porch, arms crossed, watching her hesitate. Karen Thompson, queen of the HOA, master of manipulation, was hesitating. And that told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't here to gloat. She wasn't here to threaten. She was here to beg. I let her sweat, let her stand there for a moment, shifting her weight from foot to foot, fingers clenching and unclenching at her sides like she wanted to grab onto something, anything, to stop herself from falling. For the first time, Karen looked small, weak, like a woman who had spent her whole life climbing, only to realize she was standing on a ledge with nowhere to go. I let her stand there, shifting her weight from foot to foot, her hands gripping the hem of her blazer like it was the only thing holding her together. The confidence, the arrogance, all of it was gone. What was left was something pitiful. A woman who had pushed too far and finally realized there was no way out. A gust of wind rolled over the land, rustling the burned remains of my barn. Ash still clung to the soil, a bitter reminder of everything she had taken from me. Karen glanced at the wreckage, and for a fleeting moment something flickered in her eyes. Guilt? Regret? It didn't matter. I finally moved, stepping off the porch, walking toward the fence. I took my time, slow, unbothered, in control, unlike her. She swallowed hard, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her fingers twitched slightly, betraying the nerves she was trying so hard to hide. "Listen," she started, her voice thin, trying to sound composed. "This has all gotten out of hand. You don't want to do this." I didn't say a word, didn't blink. I let the silence stretch, heavy and suffocating, watching as she squirmed under it. Karen's throat bobbed as she swallowed again. She looked down at her hands like she had rehearsed this moment 1,000 times, like she had planned out exactly what to say to make everything go away. But now that she was here, standing in front of me with nothing left to hide behind, she had nothing. She glanced back at the charred ruins of my barn, then up at me. For a fraction of a second, she looked guilty. Then, just as quickly, she masked it with practiced charm, straightening her shoulders, smoothing her hair. The Karen Thompson that had bullied, threatened, and manipulated her way through life was trying to claw her way back. She took a step closer, lowering her voice. "If you drop the charges, I can make all of this go away." I raised an eyebrow. Make it go away. Like she made the fines go away? Like she made the threats go away? Like she made me go away? I tilted my head slightly. Like you made my barn go away? Karen flinched. It was small, barely noticeable, but I saw it. And in that moment, I knew. For all her bravado, all her manipulation, all her lies, she was afraid. She opened her mouth, probably to spin another excuse, another empty promise, but I didn't let her. Like you tried to make me go away? Karen's breath hitched. Her lips parted slightly, but she didn't speak. Her chest rose and fell with quick, shallow breaths. She was trapped, and she knew it. Because she saw it now, saw it in my eyes. She wasn't in control anymore. She had lost. And the worst part, she knew it. I exhaled slowly, shaking my head. I wasn't angry, wasn't even smug. I was just done. I took a step back, my voice calm, steady. "See you in court, Karen." Then I turned, walked away without another word. And Karen, she just stood there, in the dirt, with nothing left to say, with nowhere left to run, with everything she had built crumbling around her. The wind picked up, blowing ash across the land. Karen shivered, and for the first time in her entire life, Karen Thompson had no power. The arrest came 2 days later. Karen was charged with conspiracy, arson, and attempted property destruction. When the news broke, the HOA board panicked. Board members started resigning. Homeowners started coming forward with their own stories of harassment, fines, and threats, and within a week, the HOA was dissolved. Karen had spent years building her empire of control, and in just a matter of days, it all crumbled. I woke up to silence. No fines, no threats, no Karen. For the first time in months, my home felt like home again. Max lay beside me on the porch, his tail wagging lazily as I sipped my coffee. The sun rose over my land, golden light stretching across the fields, and as I looked out over the quiet, peaceful morning, I smiled. Because I had won. And Karen, she was finally gone.